If you owe the IRS some cash and you can't pay, you want to stick around till the end of today's conversation because I'll be talking to you about IRS Form 9465 Installment Agreement Request. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you're to ask me. And if you are doing as terrific as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. In today's conversation, I want to talk to you about IRS Form 9465. And I'm going to give you line-by-line instructions. If you want to send an installment agreement request to the IRS, this is the form you have to use. We're showing you right now the direct link to that form on the IRS website. So you want to use Form 9465 to request a monthly installment plan if you cannot pay the full amount you owe shown in your tax return or on a notice the IRS sent you. Most installment agreements meet the IRS streamlined installment agreement criteria. So that means what? The maximum term for a streamlined agreement is 72 months, okay? 6 years, that's the maximum. And in certain circumstances, you can actually request a longer period to pay, or your agreement can be approved for an amount that is less than the amount of tax you owe. However, this is very important. Before requesting an installment agreement, folks, you should consider other less costly alternatives, such as getting a bank loan or using available credit on a credit card. So if you have any questions about the IRS Form 9465, you can call the IRS direct line. It's 1-800-829-1040. 1-800-829-1040. So you want to use Form 9465 if you are an individual who owes income tax on Form 1040, who is or may be responsible for a trust fund recovery penalty, or who owes employment tax, for example, as reported on Form 941, 943, or 940, related to a sole proprietor business that is no longer in operation. Please, and the IRS has been very clear about this, do not use Form 9465 if you can pay the full amount you owe within 120 days. You want to request an online payment agreement, or your business is still operating and owes employment or unemployment taxes. Instead, you want to call the telephone number that I just gave you, 1-800-829-1040, and you want to actually request an installment agreement. What about guaranteed installment agreement? So you are eligible for a guaranteed installment agreement if the tax you owe is not more than $10,000 and during the past 5 years, you and your spouse, if filing a joint return, have timely filed all income tax returns and paid any income tax due, and have not entered into an installment agreement for payments of income tax. Or you agree to pay the full amount you owe within 3 years and to comply with the tax laws while the agreement is in effect, and you are financially unable to pay the liability in full when due. And one thing I want to say here is that it's very important to understand that the IRS generally grants this installment agreement even if you can pay your liability in full if the tax you owe is not more than $10,000 and you meet the other criteria. And if you can pay the full amount you owe within 4 months, within 120 days, again, you want to call 1-800-829-1040 to establish your request to pay in full. And if you can't do this, you can avoid paying the fee to set up an installment agreement because there is a fee, all right? So, and instead of calling, you can also apply on the internet. That's fine. You can apply online. And all the links are on the IRS website. And if your balance due is not more than $50,000, you can apply online for a payment agreement instead of filing Form 9465. So to do that, you just got to go to irs.gov and you need to enter online payment agreement in the search box. What about, and this is the one thing that we have seen a lot in our research also, what about bankruptcy or OIC, offer in compromise? If you are in bankruptcy or the IRS has accepted your offer in compromise, don't file Form 9465. Again, instead, you want to call the 1-800-829-1040 to get the number of your local IRS insolvency function for bankruptcy or technical support function for offer and compromise. So the IRS has a very, I would say, very clear processes in place to deal with folks who are experiencing financial difficulty and who might be filing for bankruptcy and who are requesting, consequently, an offer and compromise. So now that I've actually sort of clarified things for you, how does the installment agreement work? Like in reality, like in practice. So the IRS will usually let you know within 30 days after they receive your request whether it is approved or denied. And however, if the request is for tax due on a return you file after March 31st, it may take the IRS longer than 30 days to reply. And if the agency approves your request, they will send you a notice detailing the terms of your agreement and requesting a fee of $120 or $52 if you make your payments by direct debit. However, you may qualify to pay a reduced fee of $43 if your income is below a certain level, and the IRS will let you know whether you qualify for the reduced fee. And if they don't say that you qualify for the reduced fee, you can request the reduced fee using the form here 13844, application for reduced user fee for installment agreements. Again, the form is 13844, application for reduced user fee for installment agreement. And this is very important. One thing I also want to say here is that essentially you will also be charged interest and maybe charged a late payment penalty on any tax not paid by its due date, even if your request to pay in installments is granted. And interest and any applicable penalties you will be charged until the balance is paid in full. So if you want to limit interest and penalty charges, you want to file your return on time and pay as much of the tax as possible with your return or notice. And all payments received will be applied to your account in the best interest of the United States. One thing I want to say here is that by approving your request, the IRS agrees to let you pay the tax you owe in monthly installments instead of immediately paying the amount in full, right? And in return, you agree to make your monthly payments on time. You also agree to meet all your future tax obligations. In other words, what I'm trying to say here is that you must have enough withholding or estimated tax payments so that your tax obligation for future years is paid in full when you timely file your return. And your request for an installment agreement will be denied if all required tax returns have not been filed. So you need to file your return, and any refund you are due in a future year will be applied against the amount you owe. And if your refund is applied to your balance, you are still required to make your regular monthly installment payments. Very important. Remember, though, that you can actually make your payments by check, money order, credit card, or one of the other payment methods shown on the IRS website. And the fee for setting up an installment agreement for each payment method is also shown. So we have here, you can see here, if you pay by check, money order, or credit card, the applicable fee is $120. If it's direct debit, it's $52. And if it's a payroll deduction installment agreement, it's $120. Again, if you have questions, you want to contact the IRS at 1-800-829-1040. So basically, there are ways. For example, let's say if you can request to modify or terminate an installment agreement. So once the agreement is approved, you may submit a request to modify or terminate an agreement. You can even modify your payment amount or due date by going to the IRS and entering online payment agreement in the search box. All right. Remember, though, an installment agreement may be terminated if you provide materially incomplete or inaccurate information in response to an IRS request for a financial update. All right. And a notice of federal tax lien may be filed to protect the government's interest until you pay in full. However, an NFTL, the notice of federal tax lien, is generally not filed with a guaranteed installment agreement. Where do you file that form, the Form 9465? You want to attach that form to the front of your return and send it to the address shown in your tax return booklet. So if you already filed your return or you are filing this form in response to a notice, you want to file Form 9465 by itself with the IRS center using the address that we're going to show you right now. So we're just going to put this address on the screen and you can see. So if you live in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, and Virginia, the address is here. It's shown on the screen right now. You can see it. If you live in Alaska, Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, District of Columbia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oregon, Rhode Island, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, Vermont, Washington State, Wisconsin, and Wyoming, you use the second address. We're showing this to you right now on the screen. If you live in Arkansas, California, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, New York, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, use the address shown on the screen right now. If you live in a foreign country, American Samoa or Puerto Rico, or are excluding income under Internal Revenue Code Section 933, or use an APO or FPO address, or file Form 2555, 2555 Easy, or 4563, or are a dual status alien or non-permanent resident of Guam or the United States Virgin Islands, you want to use the address shown right now on the screen. Okay, so for taxpayers filing Form 1040 with schedules C, E, or F for any tax year for which this installment agreement is being requested. So here, if you live in Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Nebraska, New Jersey, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, West Virginia, Wisconsin, then use the address on the screen right now. And if you live in Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Oregon, Utah, Washington, Wyoming, you want to use the address on the screen right now. And if you live in Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New York, Rhode Island, Vermont, use the address on the screen right now. And if you live in Delaware, District of Columbia, Florida, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, use the address on the screen right now. And if you live in a foreign country, American Samoa or Puerto Rico, or are excluding income under IRS Revenue Code 933, or use an APO or FPO address, or file Form 2555, 2555 Easy, or 4563, or are a dual status alien or non-permanent resident of Guam or the U.S. Virgin Islands, you want to use the address on the screen right now. All right, I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another section of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. We are now going into the line-by-line instructions. So basically, you have to put, so line 1A. So if you're making this request for a joint tax return, so you want to show the names and social security numbers in the same order as they appear on your tax return. Line 1B. So if the address you provide on line 1A is new since you filed your last tax return, you want to check the box on line 1B. Line 2, we have the form on the screen right now, so please follow with me. Line 2, you want to show the name and employer identification number of your business, and this must be no longer operating. And now we move on. Now we go all the way to so you have line 2. Where were we? Yeah, line 2 here, and line 3. It's your home phone number, the best time to call. Line 4, your work phone number, the extension. Line 5, you need to enter the total amount you owe as shown on your tax return. Line 6, if you have any additional balances due that aren't reported on line 5, you want to enter the amount here, even if the amounts are included in an existing installment agreement. So you want to provide a full picture to the IRS. All right. And line 7 here. So what you want to do on line 7, you want to add lines 5 and 6, and you want to enter the results. Now, so enter the total amount you owe as shown on your tax return. So notice it's very important. If the total amount you owe is greater than $25,000, but not more than $50,000, you must either complete line 13A and 13B and agree to make your payment by direct debit, or check box 14 to agree to make your payments by payroll deduction and attach a completed signed Form 2159 payroll deduction agreement. And a payroll deduction agreement is not available if you file Form 9465 electronically. So that's the only restrictions you have to be aware of. Continuing here, so remember that electronic filing of Form 9465 is not available if the amount you owe is greater than $50,000. All right. So if you do not agree to making your payments by direct debits or payroll deduction, you need to complete Form 433F, collection information statements, and file with this form. If the amount you owe is greater than $50,000, you must actually file it with this form. You can download Form 433F on the IRS website. Okay. And one thing I also want to say is that if the total amount you owe is not more than 50 grand, you don't need to file Form 9465. You can request an installment agreement online. So line 8, you can see here, line 8, what you have to do, even if you cannot pay the full amount you owe now, you should pay as much as possible to limit penalty and interest charges. So if you're filing this form with your tax return, make the payment with your return. So if you're filing this form by itself, you really want to attach a check or a money order payable to the United States Treasury. Don't send cash, all right? And be sure to include your name, address, social security number or EIN, and daytime phone number, and the tax year and tax return for which you are making this request. Line 9 is pretty self-explanatory. Line 10, you want to enter the amount you can pay each month, and you want to make your payments as large as possible to limit interest and penalty charges. Line 11, you need to divide the amount on line 9 by 72 and enter the result. 72 because the maximum length here, the maximum duration of the agreement is 6 years. Line 12, you can choose the day of each month your payment is due. Okay, this is the flexibility afforded to you here as a taxpayer. Line 13A and 13B, you basically making your payments by direct debit will help ensure that your payments are made timely and that you're not in default of this agreement. So this is it's important. So you put the routing number, you put and also you have to put the account number, can be up to 17 characters. All right. And one thing I also want to say is that on line 14, if you want to make your payments by payroll deduction, you want to check the box on line 14 and you need to attach a completed and sign Form 2159. Ask your employer to complete and sign their portion of Form 2159. So if you choose, remember though, if you choose to make your payments by payroll deduction, you will not be able to file Form 9465 electronically. Moving on to part 2. So if you have defaulted on an installment agreement within the last 12 months and the amount you owe is greater than $25,000 but not more than $50,000, you want to complete part 2. Now, here's a part 2. We're showing this to you on the screen right now. So part 2 is pretty straightforward. So on line 15, you have to put to the county where you have your primary residence, your marital status, whether you're single, married, and whether you share household expenses with your spouse, you have to put here. And on line 17 here, you need to put the number of dependents you will be able to claim on this year's tax return. Line 18, you have to put how many people in your household are 65 or older. And line 19, you give the information about the frequency of a payroll. So how often you are paid, once a week. Just check the right box here, once every 2 weeks, once a month, and twice a month. Remember though that being paid twice a month is not the same thing as being paid once every 2 weeks. All right, very important. So check the right box. Line 20, you need to put your net income per pay period, your take-home pay. And you want to complete line 21 and 22, the coming ones, only if you have a spouse and meet certain conditions. If you don't have a spouse, you want to go directly to line 23. So line 21, line 21 is asking the same question: how often is your partner or your spouse paid? And line 22, what is your spouse's net income and pay period, take home pay? Line 23, how many vehicles you own? You have to put that there. 24, how many car payments do you have each month? You have to put the info there. And line 25A is asking you your health insurance. So you have to, if yes, you have to go to question the 25B. If no, you skip the question 25B and you go to 26A. So just check the right box. So 25B is here. Are your health insurance premiums deducted from your paycheck? So you just have to check the right box, and you have to, in C, 25C, you have to indicate your monthly health insurance premium, the amount. And 26A, they want to know if you have some, if you make some court-ordered payments. And you have to put the amount, check the right box again. And on 26C, they want to know how much are your court-ordered payments each month. And line 27, they are actually asking you, not including any court-ordered payments for child and dependent support, how much do you pay for child or dependent care each month? All right, folks, this is pretty much it. We are basically we're going to wrap up today's conversation. I was talking to you about IRS Form 9465. I just gave you line by line instructions and explained to you the purpose of the form, the guaranteed installment agreement, how the installment agreement works, and how you can actually do this so that you avoid being in trouble again in the future regarding your tax obligations. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. Good luck. Happy filing. And until I see you next time, remember, stay marvelous.